Hi everyone, it's Rhea Jade, and this is my video on tarot basics. Recently I've seen a great increase in interest about tarot cards and oracle cards and doing readings and getting readings done, and I thought it'd be a great time for a video talking about the basics of all of that. And what does it all mean? Where does it come from? How can I get started? So I certainly don't have all the answers, but part of my role here on Earth is to share my knowledge about things, and I hope that you can take something away from this video, whether or not you're just getting started or you're looking for more inspiration, or you just want to deepen your practice, or you're a skilled pro. So I hope you can take something out of this and apply it to your own practice. So first things first. What is an oracle? So an oracle is any way of communicating with the divine. So, your higher self, spirit guides, God, extraterrestrials, ancestors, anything like that, anything existing in a higher vibration, we can communicate with in a different way than, just language, how you and I communicate. So an oracle allows you to communicate between dimensions, right? And you can talk to your spirit guides, you can talk to your star family guides, you can talk to the universe itself, and anything that lets you do that is an oracle. So tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums, Ouija boards, scrying mirrors, runes, anything like that. Those are all forms of divination. They're all oracles. And when you as a human use one of those tools and you interpret a message from the divine, you are acting as an oracle. And I think that is super important to recognize and really important to be grateful for. A huge part of my practice is that I feel my role as an oracle on Earth is a divine gift, and there's not a day that I don't express gratitude for that. And what I mean is, when you come into a reading knowing that this is sacred, it really just allows you to open the doors for communication like so much more, right? And I also think that there's a lot of similarities between being an oracle and being an astrologer, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So now that you know you're an oracle, what does that mean? How do you go about doing a tarot reading? So anyone can get a deck of cards and get a book from the library, or just use the book that comes with the cards, and pull a card and read the interpretation and get a message. And those messages are real, but whatever you put into this kind of work is what you're going to get out of it. So it's not that doing quick little readings like that is wrong, it's just self-limiting. And when you take the time to appreciate the sacredness of being an oracle and view it as communing with the divine and approaching it from a more global perspective, a bigger perspective, you really get a lot more out of it. And I think that reading cards is something that everybody can do. It's all about your third eye, right? That psychic vision. So exercise that muscle. You can't take it for granted. You can't just, pull the book off the shelf one day and pull a card and then go about your day and forget about it. You're not really using the communication lines in the way that they're supposed to be used. And I think that's super important to think about. It's how you come into it, and it's the mood and ambiance that you create, right? So how do we create the right atmosphere for tarot readings? Well, we develop that third eye muscle, and if you're watching this video, I'm sure you do something that already, exercises your third eye. Your third eye is your pineal gland. It's, it's your chakra here. It's that vision of your psychic mind. So when you're meditating, that's what you're using. It allows you to see things beyond 3D. So other ways we can create the right space for our tarot readings is just by creating a sacred space itself. So I'll show you my sacred space here and we'll talk about it. So here's my sacred space. Right now it's set up for Halloween or Samhain. So happy Halloween, right? I generally like to set up my sacred space according to the holidays and festivals, but you can set it up however you'd like. And I've got a variety of, seasonal themed decorations here. And then I've got some crystals. So I've got some selenite wands, and selenite is a great crystal for psychic enhancement. I always like to think of these wands as just directing energy, just shooting out white light energy. So I like to use those as kind of barriers or edges of my crystal grids. I've got my Athame here, my ritual dagger, which also directs energy, and it's also very much very in the mood for Samhain, I think. So when I was setting this up, I was thinking about Halloween and autumn and shadow work, and I've been feeling like there's a lot of energy about transformation and working with your shadow. So that's the theme, that's the tone that I was going for. I've got amethyst points here. Amethyst is great to use for any kind of psychic work. I've got citrine, which is great for transformation and power. I've got raw moonstone. And I've got these ammonites here, which are super cool. These are connected to ancient knowledge and past lives, so kind of like an Akashic record type thing. I've got labradorite, which is also connected to the Akashic records. I've got a really nice clear quartz here, just as a final generator piece there. So it's really just all about what kind of tone you're trying to convey and what you want to say in your sacred space. It doesn't have to be a static area. It can be a working sacred space that changes. Like I said, I usually change mine for the seasons, or, if I'm doing a certain type of reading, I would revamp this whole thing. So it's just however you would like. So basically the whole idea is to set up your sacred space in a way that's conducive to the types of readings that you're going to be doing. And if I was doing a reading about prosperity or new beginnings, I'd use something like Amazonite, or Aventurine is a great one. I could bring out my Lakshmi statue. Raw emerald would be great for that. So it's really all about what you're trying to convey. I love working with blue sodalite for communication. It's really connected to the throat chakra and therefore communication, but you could use any blue stone. Celestial quartz is great for communicating with higher vibrations. So if I was doing something about healing, I would use calcite. And I would probably add some white feathers. I also love using my raven's feathers for shadow work. I just didn't put them in my Samhain display. But like I said, I was thinking a lot about transformation energies and shadow work, and that's why I chose the crystals I chose for this altar right now. Other things you can do: burning incense, listening to some meditation music, binaural beats are great, chanting. So anything that kind of stimulates that part of your brain and kind of gets you into those mindsets. Did I say incense? Burning your favorite incense. You can use essential oil blends. This is a great one from a friend. So I love using this for meditation. It's been really nice. So it's all about creating your space and what you're trying to say. I'm not really going to use a lot of grounding crystals because I want everything to be very upper chakra, right? So your crown chakra, your third eye, your throat, this is all communication, channeling, vision, you know, connecting to your higher self, that kind of like conduit. So I'm not going to use a lot of things that are going to keep me in the 3D plane. But however, if I was doing a reading about someone's new job or a hobby or anything like materialism type of deal, I would use maybe a jasper or something mildly grounding, right? So I think that's all I have to say about creating a sacred space. So now you're empowered and you're charged up because you know you're an oracle and you're meeting to communicate with the divine in this sacred space. So now you're ready to work with the cards. So tarot cards, oracle cards, what's the difference? Well, tarot cards date back to the 1400s in France and Italy. There's a lot of mysterious history there, and you know, we're not really quite sure what they were used for. It seems like they were used for playing cards as well as like a divinatory purpose. But nowadays, almost every tarot deck out there is based on the deck from 1910, the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. And it's considered a really classic deck with a great insight into the cards. And so there's 78 cards, and they all the decks are based around these same 78 archetypes. And oracle cards, on the other hand, are each artist's rendition of the messages that they're receiving. So this is an intuitive person. This is you know, a channeler who's using their artistic expression to create these images and these messages that go along with the words they're receiving from the divine. And that's why oracle cards are so cool, because they're each so unique. Tarot cards are a more traditional approach, and the 78 cards, the 78 archetypes, really tie into archetypes in the human psyche. And, you know, they're linked to the zodiac, and they're linked to these, you know, the wheel of the year and kind of, you know, the change of the seasons. So there's a lot of like deep aspects of tarot that you can get into. But like I said, this is a video on tarot basics. So we're just going to touch on the basics of tarot. So of these 78 cards, they're divided into two groups: the major arcana and the minor arcana. And the major arcana, we're going to talk about first. It's 22 cards, and it's cards like the High Priestess, the Moon, the Lovers. Most people are familiar with this card. So cards like this, these are called the major arcana, and reason being, they give insight to these deep-seated motifs in our life, right? They're macrocosms of our life, and where they fall in a reading and what they say is all about crucial soul work. So these are deep issues that are setting the tone for your reading and really, you know, putting things into perspective. Like, hey, you have all this stuff going on. This is why, because this is the tone of your life right now. These are the major things that are affecting your psyche and, you know, the energies that you're cultivating each day. So major arcana are super, super important cards. Not more important than the minor arcana. They just cover a broader expanse of messages, I guess I would say. So, like I said, the same 78 cards in all the decks, but artists do use their artistic expression and kind of artistic licensure, right? So you may have some variations. I know in my deck, for one, I have the Lord and the Lady instead of the Emperor and the Empress. I have the Feralt instead of Temperance, and I have Cernunnos instead of the Devil. So there's a few different things, but the archetypes and the messages behind that are still the same. And I think that's kind of cool. That's what makes different decks so exciting and unique. The more you work with decks, you'll find out that they have different personalities and they like to say things in different ways. This is my Druid Craft deck. So the cards I showed you a second ago. And this was the first deck I got over 12 years ago. And it speaks to me quite differently than my Fairy Forest Folklore deck. This is the second deck that I got, and it was almost a year, I think, before I really even started working with it, just because the cards and I didn't have a connection. But now this deck is super talkative. It loves doing readings for other people, and whereas my Druid deck is much more private, and it's very quiet and almost a little introverted. So, moving on, that's the major arcana. And now we have the minor arcana. So the minor arcana are divided into the suit cards, and they're also numbered ace through 10. So the 4 suits are going to correspond with the 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And most decks do their suits the same way, but again, like I said, artistic freedom, and you will see a lot of variations. So usually we have swords, pentacles, cups, and wands, but an example of a difference is that in this deck I have rings instead of pentacles. So you'll see different things. The point is to know that they all correspond with an element, and that element is going to bring those energies to your reading. So swords is connected with air energy, and sword cards are always bringing about some sort of conflict, you know, and air is that intellect, that wisdom. So it's almost like these conflicts are things that we kind of know better about, and you know, it's almost like an ego thing, right? So swords is air, and air is wisdom. It's your mind, it's inspiration, it's that, you know, higher thinking. Pentacles is earth energy. And when we think about earth energies, we know it's grounding, it's protection, it's stability, you know, it's anything dealing with our 3D. This is our material world, our hearth and home, our jobs, our projects, what are we getting our hands on? And, you know, I didn't mention this yet, but the archetypes and the symbolism are all tied in with the drawings and the artwork. And so this is a really good example. You know, this is the 8 of Pentacles, and he's, you know, spooning liquid gold there to make some pendants. So clearly something about work and hands-on materialism, that sort of deal. Cups. Cups is water, and water energy is all about emotion and feeling. And when we have a cups card, when we have a water card, it's saying, how does this feel? This is gonna feel like this. So part of our experience as 3D humans is that feeling, right? That being in our space. So water cards bring about emotion, and those are cups cards. And last but not least, wands. And wands is connected to fire. And we all know how fire energy manifests in our lives, right? It's that passion, it's that spark, that roar, that creative energy. So we can really, you know, charge up and channel that. And anything, any card, any fire card, any wands card is going to have that with it. It's going to be about passion. It's going to be about courage and like that inner fire, right? So earlier I think I mentioned that I like to say being an oracle, being a tarot reader is a lot like being an astrologer. And this is why. There's so many elements, right? So we have to put together our sacred space and create the vibe and tone that we want, enhance the energies that we're trying to connect to, you know, get on the right wavelength, get in the right chakra. And on top of that, we have to be exercising our third eye. We have to be working with our cards and creating a relationship and developing that psychic bond. We need to consider, you know, you can consider the wheel of the year. So what season are we in? Is there a holiday coming up? Like my altar right now is decorated for Samhain, which most people say Halloween. And is there a lunation happening, right? So is there a full moon? Is it the dark of the moon, which is the best time for reading, by the way, dark of the moon? Is it a new moon? So what's going on astrologically? What sun sign is it? You know, what sun sign am I? Is this a psychic time for me because of a transit that's happening? You know, and it's tying all of that together. And furthermore, it's what deck do I want to use? Do I want to do tarot cards today? Do I need an oracle reading instead? And oracle cards can get very specific in their vibes. So that itself is another choice for you to make. So that's why I like to say that being an oracle and reading cards is like being an astrologer, because you have to be able to bring all those pieces together, and then you have to be able to look at the reading from that high of a perspective, right? So what are my major arcana cards, and what is that telling me about the deeper levels here, the deeper aspects of this reading and what I have going on? And the suit cards, I didn't mention this, but so the minor arcana cards are not only bringing those elements to the reading, but they're referring to more specific events and, you know, choices, things going on, you know, opportunities, and more specific things than the major arcana. So putting all of that together and then interpreting that as an oracle is a huge undertaking, and it's a great gift to have and to work on and enhance and to bring forth into your life. So where do you go from there? Well, now you can consult your resources. And the first thing you'll probably want to do is check out the book that comes with the cards, right? But don't stop there. And this goes back to what I said before about pulling a book off a shelf and doing a quick reading. When you limit yourself to one interpretation of that archetype, you're only seeing one interpretation of that archetype. And once you get exposure to the different authors, you can start to see the deeper meanings and some things that are consistent all the way through, and it can help you read between the lines of all that gray, you know, nonsense, because we know I know there's a lot of information out there about cards. So I recommend this book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This is an excellent tarot book. It's my favorite one. I've been looking for this book for about 12 years, ever since I started reading tarot cards, and a friend sent it to me. You know who you are, thank you. And it's just been a great gift. So that book is tied to the Rider-Waite deck, and it's a really great in-depth look at the archetypes, and it really goes into a lot of the history and the deeper meanings. So it's a great resource to use alongside the book that came with the cards. And then I use my own personal tarot book. And this is still a work in progress, but I'm compiling my interpretations of all the cards based on, you know, what I've read and what I've learned throughout my time as a tarot reader. So now you have some information to get yourself going or to deepen your practice. I hope that you took something out of this video. If you're still watching this, thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and I'm so blessed to be here. Until next time, bye.